Hello everyone, today is my second video of the promise I made that I would create a series of videos where I would share my spiritual journey of 18 years and the experiences I gathered along the way, and some of those are like gold nuggets. And as I found out last time with the first video I created, you never know who will be connecting with what you share and how you will be able to make people travel along with you along the way as we progress. So today this video is about me sharing the first trip I did to Egypt on 2006, and I would say on that year 2006 to 2007, in between there, was the beginning, officially the beginning of my spiritual journey, because on that moment it was when I started following officially a teacher, a mentor back then, me and my family, and we joined a group of people, so we had like team training, let's say, and we did some really cool stuff during that time based on the energies of the time and based on what we knew. So prior to this trip we did, during that time we lived outside of Athens. We lived a bit north from Athens. We lived in Volos, which by itself, Volos and Mount Pelion nearby, it's a very, very spiritual place. Lots of ancient energies there, lots of ancient creatures, lots of ancient temples, and that by itself is a story for another time. It's a whole chapter I will share there with you. And in that place, when we went to live, is where I met my first mentor in the spiritual journey. And right before our trip to Egypt, I was trained by him in the angelic Reiki. I took the first two levels, and I started like healing other people, started healing myself, started training, connecting with the angels, downloading information in forms of channeling, because up until that time I wasn't a channeler myself. Someone else was doing the channeling for me, and we're doing like group coaching team ups once per month, I remember. So without further ado, we started our journey. We were about, if I remember correct, we were about 20-25 people back in that time from all over Greece. We had gathered, and our mentor, along with an assistant of his, they took us to Egypt. And during that trip we went to we landed in Cairo, where we stayed there for a while. Then we took an aeroplane to Luxor. From there we visited some temples and areas around Luxor, and then we took I think we went around to visit some other areas. Then we came back, we took an aeroplane back to Cairo, and from Cairo back to Greece. Now it's really interesting to mention that I've been 2 times in Egypt, and the first time, I will admit, I didn't feel so many things as I felt the second time, because the first time as a team we hadn't worked together, and the mentor, although he was good in delivering information and training, he wasn't good in building connection with the people. So from the beginning of the trip we kind of like split into groups. We weren't very connected to each other, so we kind of split into groups, and everybody was a bit for his own, let's say, with very, very few people working together. So from the offset of the trip I had a resistance towards what was going on. Plus I was much younger and ignorant of some things, so I didn't know how to deal. So I just chose the path of least resistance, I remember back then, and that's how the whole trip went for me. Hello everybody. So let's see. Although it wasn't a very I didn't feel big attachment to the land. I didn't feel like I was connecting too much to the land compared to how it was the second time. It was really beautiful to see the people, how they live their lives. It was really beautiful to see how Cairo operates. without the traffic lights. We found out that the person who drives best is the person who's like the most sleazy to go between other cars and not hit anybody. It's really insane the way people drive. I thought that we people from Greece were driving like crazy up until I met Egyptian people. It was really insane. I think the first or the second day when we were on the trip, we visited, they have these big river boats that they also double up as restaurants, which we have also similar here in London as well. And we went there to eat. We were a big group of people. Everybody found interesting that we're speaking very different compared to I think the people they have usually there, English people or English speaking people. And at some point our mentor said to the manager of the restaurant that we are Greeks. So somehow they changed the music and put Greek music, the Greek dance music, and we all started dancing on the tables everywhere. We're laughing, and all the Egyptians around us, they took their cameras and they were shooting photos and videos of us, like, oh look, the crazy people out there. And it was actually the first time we managed, and the only we managed to be all together as a team. Another thing that was really interesting on my trip to Egypt was that farther away from us, at the same time period we went to this land, they had a terrorist attack, or they attacked some tourists in Sudan. So what happened was that wherever we went outside of Cairo to visit temples or any touristic attractions, we were always followed by like convoys, by police officers and army of officers as well, with the jeeps and military, like proper military convoy. That was really interesting to see, because at some point in the trip we had to stop and wait for over an hour for other tourist groups to gather together, so they would take all of us together and bring us back to Cairo. We spent the whole day on the road because we had to wait for other people to come by and pick us up. It was really cool. Now, one of the biggest highlights that I received from my trip in Egypt was during my visit to this beautiful country. For the first time we got initiated into Merkaba. For those who don't know now, Merkaba re-emerged, let's say, on the modern world from Drunvalo Melchizedek, who is a magnificent mentor teacher who lives in the Red Rocks, Arizona in USA, and his whole life has been a journey of learning about what Merkaba is and creating the system, learning from other teachers until he created that system. And then later on we found out it wasn't created, it was just resurfacing, as Reiki has been. Many people believe that Reiki just is the here and now. It was invented here and now. But the truth of the matter is that Reiki is as ancient as humanity. Just back then bear a different name compared to what it is called now. And Merkaba is one of the oldest and deepest and high-ranking meditations a human being can do, because Merkaba meditation activates our astral body, which is called Merkaba. And we got, for Merkaba they have the first level and the second level, and we got back then we got the first level, and I think later on we got the second one. And it was really interesting because we were doing group meditations together, where we were learning how to do the practice. And it's really beautiful when you go in a country and you receive training or initiations that originate from that very same country. It's really amazing, but magnificent experience. And because of the lay of the land, because of the energies of the land where we were, the meditation was really strong. You would really literally travel like you never traveled before. As a bonus to that experience, our mentor took us outside of Luxor, near the Valley of the Kings, to meet his mentor, who had visited a few years before in Greece to train people in Merkaba, who he got it himself from Drunvalo in the USA, and his name was Kevin Core. and he lived with his wife outside of Luxor. It was really beautiful because we went there, we met them, we went into their house, and again together, all together as a group, we did another meditation, like to help us align our energies. And he showed us some tricks. And because most of our people didn't know English, we had a girl who was an English teacher with us, luckily, and he was talking and she was doing the translation on the spot for everyone to be able to understand. And to be honest, this was the first and only time I met Kevin, because a few years later we heard that he passed away. And it's really interesting and beautiful to know that his wife continues the work to this day, travels across the world and initiates people to Merkaba and speaks about it and does the meditations. It's really, really amazing job. Second highlight across along this journey that we had, we visited the pyramids, and there I had one of the most profound experiences in a spiritual way, because we went in that pyramid, but in the big one, where the main tomb lies. But not all of us followed. We were about 7-8 people, I think, give or take, that we went in. And to be fair and square, our mentor bribed the guy who was the guide over there for that spot to keep people away for a bit, and we stayed there and we did a meditation. But as it happened, as we sat down to do the meditation, there was another tourist with us who was in the room at the time of the transaction with the guide. And this guy, he was Japanese, and he was also a tourist. But guys, sometimes, how to say, when something wants to happen, it will happen, and when the energy will work in a beautiful way to align things together. So what happened? We all sat down, we took the meditation position, and we started the meditation. But the Japanese guy, without knowing us, without knowing what we do, he understood that we were doing a spiritual work. So what he did, he literally sat opposite of me. He took a perfect lotus position, and he started meditating for the same amount of time that we did. Of course, our teacher was speaking in Greek, so he couldn't understand what was going on, but he could understand the exchange of energy that was happening in that moment. And trust me, it's not every day that you get the chance to do a Merkaba meditation within the pyramids in that specific spot. And it was a really strong experience. And then when we finished, we just thanked the person who he stayed with us, because it's really interesting if you think that the universe believes in balance. So I think we had like an odd number, and because of him we had an even number, so kind of the energy in the room, in the space, was kind of balancing itself. And that was a really nice and extraordinary experience. And a few days later, what we did, we went to visit a perfume shop, but they make the perfumes from the oasis outside of outside of Cairo. Well, I can't remember the name of the flowers that they're using to help them transform and create the perfumes. And they did a bit of an exhibition to explain to us the names of the perfumes, of course, because they wanted to sell. Plus, what specific focus was for every perfume. And it was really interesting. They were saying that this perfume helps expand your consciousness. This perfume helps you attract a partner. This perfume does this perfume does that. And literally, every time they were explaining to us what a specific perfume does for you or to you, and we would smell, you would feel like when the aroma was going through your nostrils, and inside your mind, specific nerves in your system that would get triggered. Now, why it's really interesting? That's because ancient Egyptians were famous for the aromatherapy training they were conducting in the ancient temples, because they believed and they knew that perfume scent help activate specific brain cells to help expand your mind, open your consciousness, and grow. And it was really interesting that we received a similar feeling when we smelled these perfumes. Not only help us travel back in time, but experiencing what other people must have experienced the moment they were taking into this perfume. Because ancient therapy, as is now, also had music, it had motion, dance, and had also aroma therapy plus massage. It had quite a few things, and it's really interesting. Hello, everybody, and it's really interesting to see what they were doing. Now, after we spent our time there, we met some people. We had really fun. The next leg of our journey, we went to, I can't remember, it was either Abydos or either Thebes, because in that place where we visited, on one corner of the temple, outside, it's kind of destroyed, some ruins are left there on that side. There were also on the wall was that famous tree of life, which also has to do with the Merkaba. That's why it was really interesting for us to go and see it, because it's part of our training. And our mentor took us there and he showed us, like, okay guys, that's for you to see. It's another sign of the why we are here. And in that very same temple we went in, we found a nice cozy spot, and again we did the Merkaba meditation. But what is really interesting, which is very similar to the gold ray of light exercise, is that as you finish exercise and you are left out in space to build, where you feel like calm, open, secure, safe, energized, and one with the universe. I had my mother with me on that day, and what happened on that spot was that my mother's channel opened. She started doing channeling communication herself, and she went farther up, and she went on the astral plane where she saw the temple as it is on the astral plane, as it was, as the memory still is. And she said, I literally felt as if I was home. Now, because many more people were coming and going, we had to go. So we finished the meditation, but Mom wanted to stay up there. She didn't want to let go. She wanted to stay up there. She didn't want to come back, because it's literally like you find your own personal paradise. You find your own your center, where you belong, where you come from. You find home. And like everybody else, every other human being, when you find home, you want to stay home. You don't want to come back. So it was the first time. Well, Mom came back. We had to go back. Although the mentor said, okay, I'll bring her back because she doesn't want to come back, he brought her very fast, very abruptly, and very, very rash, and in a very rustic way. Let's put it this way. So Mom couldn't connect to the earth level, and she started like crying like a baby and hitting. Have you ever seen a baby where you say like, okay, we had enough fun at the park today, we need to go back, and then the baby starts like sliding in the mud and hitting the ground like crazy, like, oh, I don't want to go home, leave me here. That's how literally my mom was in that day, and she was about 52, I think she was, give or take. So seeing a 50-year-old old person doing like that, it's quite profound. And hello, and she took he took some water and poured in her spine, which is the last thing you want to do when you're trying to ground somebody back to this reality, because that was what he did, which was very, as I said, rustic, crude, and really unnecessary. And it's really interesting because that happened around midday. And for the rest of the day, Mom didn't want to speak to anyone, didn't want to contact anyone. She was like, just let me be. And she was kind of moody for the rest of the trip. I think like another 2-3 days, she was like this. When we spoke about it later on, when she calmed down, she said like, I really didn't want to come back. I felt like I was home. I saw myself as I really am up on the astral plane. I didn't want to come back for any reason, and at least if I had to come back, they had to give me time to accept that I had to come back, which is something that I wasn't given the chance when it happened. that was like, for me, was like one of the shocking experiences of the trip, but it was also an eye-opener of knowing what to expect, knowing what to avoid for next time. If I have a student of mine where we do spiritual exercise and I see that they cannot come back, it was really interesting to see that. With this one, I covered quite a lot of the bullet points I had for today. Actually, I covered up all the bullet points I had for today. What I did with you today was I took you in a very short amount of time through a whole journey, which lasted about almost, I think, a week. And the reason why I don't have so many things to share with you, because I don't remember, is because 3 years after that we did another retreat in Egypt. This time we organized it, me and my mother, and we had another 20 people with us. And this time, from the moment we landed in Cairo until the day we left, every single step of the way was pure magic. Was the experience was on an entirely different level. So I think the biggest takeaways, I would say, from today's share is that even hello Mitso, that even from a bad teacher you can still learn. If not to learn what to look for, to learn what to avoid. Okay. Plus, another big takeaway for me was that even if you are with someone who trains you that you don't really like, you never know where he might lead you, because one bad occurrence, one bad meetup might lead to something good, not because of not with the person that you're dealing with, but because of the person that you're dealing with. Like we did, as I said, we had bad feelings about our mentor, but the places he took us, the people we met in these places, these people were like pure gold, pure fantastic people. The energy that they exhumed, the way they were, and how they operated was pure magic. And to be fair, I would really do another trip in Egypt, because I really miss that country. I feel every time I visit this place, I feel more and more as if I'm home, more than I feel like when I am in my country, to be honest, back home in Greece. And let me think. The second takeaway, I would say, for this video would be, it's really beautiful when you visit different countries, when you try different things for the first time, and you go and take initiations or courses you do there, or training that correspond to the country, because in the moment of receiving the training in that country is as Tony Robbins says, it's full immersion, because you are in the country, you are with the people, you're receiving their training, you're learning from them. And in that moment, you have isolated yourself from your country, from your comfort zone, from the things you know, maybe from your phone as well, if you switch off. Because in that moment, you're doing full, total immersion, and you're learning, and you experience. Because what happens with that is that it totally transforms the paradigm you have around you. And it's the same thing we did when we went for the UPW. Now this year with Tony Robbins, it's the same thing we did when we went for the Millionaire Mentor with Andy Harrington. The time we spent isolated, apart from the rest of the people we know, the society, the worries of that, of everything that surrounds us, and we fully focused on being there, being present, and receiving the knowledge and putting into practice. When you isolate yourself and you focus on learning and progressing, your progress is 10 times faster than it would be if you just went 2 hours, you did the training, and then you went back home. Because it's like you took nothing. And it's been really fantastic experience, because this is the second trip. Hello. Because this is the second trip I'm mentioning where I went away, I visited a foreign country, and I participated in the spiritual training that this country had to offer. That was full, total immersion for me in order to learn. And this part that I'm sharing now, I've done it 2 more times. 1 more time in Egypt, 1 more time in Cyprus. And the third time, which is ongoing to be honest, is here in England, compared to where I come from. I have become a wanderer, learning along the way as I go, from wherever I go. So these are my shares for today. I know this video is a bit shorter than the first one, and I hope I helped somebody with my shares today. I hope that you took away something like I did. And I'm been trying to remember if I can share something with you to take you with me along this trip. And let me think. If there is one thing that I could share to make you travel with me, that would be the moment I was in the pyramids, inside the tomb of the Egyptian pharaoh, at the moment that we did the meditation, because I felt in that moment that time and space stopped existing. All the team that was in the room, we were as one. I had the Japanese guy opposite of me, and I didn't feel like judging or commenting or what does he want here. I felt as if we were one. And really interesting, I felt like golden light was coming down from the top of the pyramid, and although the room is somewhere in the middle and the edge of the pyramid is farther up, I felt as if I was up in the point of the pyramid at the moment of this meditation, the Merkaba meditation happening. I felt as we were expanding. I felt as if we were covering with our energy and our intention the whole of Egypt, and moving forward the whole of the world. As one consciousness all together, expanding, growing, and empowering planet Earth to help planet Earth along its way of expanding and ascending. We couldn't feel heat, we couldn't feel cold. After a while, we couldn't even hear the voices of the people outside the door who wanted to come in, and the guide wouldn't let them for the time of the meditation. We literally lost the sense of time, of everything that was happening. It's really interesting, because in that moment it's like time stands still for you. You feel like you don't grow older, you don't grow younger, you just are. You are one with everything that's going on around you and within you, fully conscious of the process. I would say this would be my biggest takeaway, my biggest memory, my biggest part, because even as I share this with you, I feel my hands are literally heating up as we're talking, as if I'm reliving right now that moment back then. So thank you, Michael. So this is my share for you for today. Next Tuesday, I'm gonna go the next chapter of my journey, of my spiritual journey of 18 years. That's all I have for you today. I hope I helped somebody. I hope it landed somewhere there, and somebody saw something for themselves. Up until next time, namaste. Have a good day.